Debrief theory. Is there a Schrodinger's algorithm? Electromagnetic shielding. Alpha beta radiation shielding particles shield electrons, and the blocking of valence shell electrons that are pulled by the nucleus. EM properties consist of these things. EMI stands for electromagnetic interference. Inner core electrons, plasma diffusion. The weaker electrostatic attraction creates a stable force field between the nucleus and the valence electrons. Ionization energy decreases as a result because less energy is needed to move, also known as surface tension. Crop circles, in a sense, imprint radiant arrays of our own EM fields, abilities reflected back to us. In the programs, we stitched back our consciousness through star shielding into time streams and connected our points in space and time through the dream network and hid our primordial essence in the ionosphere. Warp Drive, Star Shield, Starlink, Space Marine, Vanguards, Starcom, Starlinks. MXENE material, MXene material is used for neutron shielding film. It is a defensive plasma-based EM shield. Plasma reflects energy like an incoming mirror and a refraction, also known as an avalanche effect. MXene is highly conductive, reflects microwave frequencies that cause static. That static discharge is left over after aperture events. After the radiation levels out in the refraction shielding effect, the plasma goes back to its normal state. Electrodeposition method is used for high EM shielding efficiency. Radiation dissipates and reflection loss. Quickly grown graphite film is used in some of the advancement models and what they're based off of in carbon nanotubule assemblies. Tungsten wall has also led to nuclear breakthroughs. Magnets can maintain and control hot plasma via a central magnet called the solenoid. If you shrink the middle of some of these apparatuses, the whole machine shrinks down. Functions as a vacuum vessel without the use of glass fiber insulation. Quantum computers can now teleport and store energy harvested from empty space. So be mindful of the space within you and what you're making space for and how to abide in the Most High so you don't get the essence trafficked out of you. Vacuum and void spaces in outer space that can become trap zones, also known as Sarcosa and Carcosa. Become entangled with sometimes by accident or exploration, such as in the movie Time Trap Cave, where a girl from the secret space program was enclosed in amber and sent back in time thousands of years inside of this time cave system through complicated layers and techniques and measures enacted had to be enacted to break her out. New breakthroughs in quantum microscopy make electrons visible in slow motion. These can be viewed in high spatial and temporal resolutions. Some materials can change from insulators to superconductors and switches, maintaining high quality signals repeated 44 million times a second. Signals and Signatures Intelligence (SS) MISTY still remains classified by the NRO, 4 stealth recon satellites using photo recon. There's Topaz radar, component of which is deflecting future architectures. FIA successor programs consist of USA 224 and Next Generation Electro-Optical NGEO. Conjoint Constellation Project of Blackjack. Satellites were launched by DARPA. The KH-11 Crystal EECS was nicknamed 1010 also, and it has 5 electro-optical keyhole generations or operators, blocks 1 through 5. Area 58 is an aerospace facility in Belvoir, Virginia, and it's still run by Edwin Wilson, Anthony Cotton, Todd Benson, and Nicholas Martin. These are types of MASINT. MASINT, ELINT, Technical ELINT, OP ELINT, and TELELINT. Electronic Intel. COMINT, collection analysis from people and groups using bistatic channels to target signals that improve field awareness along with seismic tech intelligence. Also for high energy lasers, SIS, signals in space, RF modulated. Special operations and SOS, there's a quantitative signatures, sensors, platforms, and studies of all EM signals that can be cataloged and continue to be. Acoustic intelligence is called ASINT, ASINT, Signet, radio frequency energy outcomes. Geointelligence is spatial, derived from synthetic aperture radars, SAR, SARS, to create imagery intel. MASINT uses EM radiation, magnetic anomaly detectors that detect variations in the Earth's magnetic fields, otherwise known as MAD, MAD. Early missile detection systems were based on backscatter, capture what's in the noise. Integrated systems analysis of all possible collection methods against anti-ballistics, utilizing reflection of waves, particles, and signals, sending them back to the direction they came from, backscatter. This is also called mirror or diffuse reflection. Bistatic remote sensing system is used for synthetic apertures and readouts. Its qualities include spatial resolutions, spectral, which is a discrete frequency band, radiometric, and temporal levels of energy discharging at intervals at which the target senses them. There's also cross cueing that happens between different styles. There's also a variety of unattended ground sensors, mass sense, measurements, and signature intelligence, electro-optical, nuclear, geophysical, radar materials, radio frequencies being the the six disciplines capturing intrinsic characteristics. These six disciplines consist of human intelligence, IMINT, imagery, signet, technit, which is an analysis of captured equipment regulated by the 18th Intel Squadron under the DIA Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA. Space Delta 18 is a service for cryptological components of the NSA, SIS, NASIC, DIA components, derivatives of ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, COMINT, communications intelligence. Post-asynchronous serial communications, parity bits, stop bits, symbol rate measurements equal baud units, BAUD. Cryptanalysis. Serial port 8N1, bits for framing is related to the gross bit rate. Signals intelligence, ultra eyes, clear eyes. Ultra eyes was a Lucy spy ring in Switzerland. Clear eyes 4869702. Wolfpack is a distributed electronic detection nodes with location and classification capabilities. Wolfnet uses massnet radio techniques with ELINT methods, or is used as a subdiscipline or counter ESM, and DSEAD, DSED, distributed suppression of enemy air defenses, an enhancement of SAID, SEAD. Smart Dust develops massively parallel networks of hundreds or thousands of motes that are equivalent one mote to 1 millimeter cubed. Microelectromechanical systems are called MEMS, MEMS. Neural dust relates to brain computing interfaces. Neural lace creates a membrane for the activations to be retained in a weapons system or other systems. Amino acid activation is bound to tRNA by an ester bond between carboxyl groups of the amino acid and negative OH of the tRNA. Biopolymers naturally connect with the body fluids, living tissues, and supporting cells and build connective tissues, function, and cartilage. Others provide molecules applied as signals to trigger the endocrine system. Biopolymers are composed of covalently lined repeating units. Monomers and building cells, tissue structures that grow and propagate, as well as regenerate. This replaces polymer monomer originations of petroleum or synthetic polymers, which has weak waste disposal, residue removal left over. The proteins turn genes on and off. Gene regulation is controlled by EM signals via the environment or cells that activate specific proteins called transcription factors. Transcription factors, TF, equals the sequence specific DNA binding factor that binds to specific sequences, controlling the rate of DNA transcription to the messenger RNA transcribed into the RNA. In regulatory regions, function level is controlled by the level of transcription factors. Gene regulation can occur at any point during gene expression. Bloodline echogenesis. Cryptogenic distillation columns. Cryogenic distillation columns are used for low radioactive underground argon in a dark matter detector. This parallels with the K reactor argon port in the secret space program. Certain body weight requirements for the secret space program, OPS, hydrogen loss, and B2 loss. Spirals of compressing charge go through a center, right? Is that phase conjugation? Does that produce a time reversed wave? The Planck sphere is the conjugate point, therefore the phase conjugate time reverse mirror happens there at a black hole. The phase conjugated wave of charge in hydrogen structures is accelerated towards the center. This is how gravity is made, by phase conjugate golden ratios. It's converted to longitudinal EMF, which is well known to be superluminal, faster than light, and so is gravity propagation, propagating through the Planck uniformity of charge distribution of the quantum foam. That's why the charge, which has been capacitively imploded and conjugated through the center, gravity as a black hole, appears to disappear into the event horizon. Gravity is monopole for charge. Electromagnetic monopole is gravity. Gravity appears to be infinite charge compression only in the sense that infinite compression is precisely what fractality is mathematically proven to be. That fractality is the principle which golden ratio is similar to. Boost capacitors are capable of producing 34th Z of flux of a modulator is capable of modulating 96 zettabytes of data. This equivocates to 1,000 kilograms of mass, a gateway that is open and oscillating during or prior to the temporal space you wish to downlink to. CERN transmits charged protons with the value of 1 terabyte. GSM network has been allocating charged protons for 28 years. From 2 grams first 6-bit binary codecs, digital packets, data. Aerospace decompression illness happens as a result of this hydrogen loss. And this research was made by Richard de la Cruz, Rosalind Clement Fuentes, Sidonia Wonham, and Jeffrey Cooper. Decompression illness can occur when the human body is exposed to low environmental barometric pressures when ascending while driving at high altitudes. Activity rapidly releases the inert gas nitrogen, typically dissolved in body fluids and tissues, causing it to come out of solution in the bloodstream and form bubbles. These bubbles formed within the body can affect various organ systems like joints, brain, skin, and lungs, leading to decompression sickness during aerospace activities. This condition can occur due to non-pressurized aircraft flights, cabin pressure fluctuations, flying shortly after driving, or using altitude chambers. You can have joint pain, headaches, paresthesia, visual changes with severe consequences. Decompression illness during driving arises from nitrogen accumulation in the tissues, leading to bubble formation upon returning to lower ambient pressures. Altitude decompression illness stems from nitrogen already saturated in the tissues at ground level, emerging from solution at lower atmospheric pressures. Decompression illness is initially classified in 2 types. Type 1 affects the skin, joints, and lymph vessels, whereas 2 involves the central nervous system, the CNS, and is considered more severe. A prevalent classification system, as mentioned below, is based on affected organ systems: cutaneous, arthropathy, joints; cardiopulmonary, heart and lungs; the chokes; neurology, brain, spinal cord, nerves; the staggers. Decompression illness is referred to as great imitator, with a diverse range of symptoms. 44% to 67% of patients develop these symptoms in 2 hours of returning to ground level. The mainstay of therapy is hydration and administration of 100% oxygen or hyperbaric oxygen. If this involves fluctuating ambient pressures, like scuba diving, flight-related illnesses, clinicians should consider decompression illness due to its presentations. There's also a pathophysiology to this. This combines Henry's and Boyle's laws. When pressure over a liquid decreases, the gas dissolved in the liquid also decreases. When a soda bottle is opened, gas escapes and forms bubbles in the soda. These bubbles consist of carbon dioxide gas escaping from the liquid due to a decrease in barometric pressure. The phenomenon aligns with Boyle's law, which states that the volume of gas is inversely related to the pressure it undergoes at a constant temperature. Nitrogen is usually dissolved in the human body as a gas and forms bubbles as barometric pressure decreases, affecting various areas. Nitrogen bubbles contribute to dysfunction by inducing nerve compression, vascular stenosis, and distal ischemia. They activate inflammatory pathways and promote platelet aggregation, leading to the release of vasoactive substances that cause vasoconstriction. These bubbles contribute to axonal degeneration and demyelination. Tissues exhibit rates of gas dissolution, with fat dissolving 5 times more nitrogen than the blood. Fat stores 50% of the body's nitrogen. When humans engage in driving activities, nitrogen dissolves in the blood as the depth increases. Excess nitrogen remains dissolved in the body after 12 hours after each dive. Flying within 12 to 24 hours after diving increases the risk of decompression illness. So hydrogel we're going into now. Biopolymer-based hydrogel. This has biocompatibility, degradability, non-toxicity, and is used in intelligent gels. Fog Bank is a U.S. Department of Energy material in thermonuclear warheads. Three-dimensional insoluble supramolecular covalent polymer networks hold fluids in a balanced osmotic pressure force. Elastic type forces that are cross-linked into macromolecular warfare or simple chains for neutrality. Hydrogels can be cross-linked by physical covalence or ionic bonds, hydrophobic interactions, and dipole to dipole interactions. Smart hydrogels area, areas are stimuli sensitive with temperature, light, wavelength, pH values, ultrasounds, ionic strengths, magnetic and electric fields, and their combinations. They present changes in swelling, morphology, characteristics, mechanical properties, volume, shape, network, structure, degradation, permeability, and phase transitions. Properties consist of elasticity, flexibility, bioadhesion with superior biocompatibility. High critical solutions allow for contracting under cooling. Low critical solutions result in swelling when in fluid flux. Cationic hydrogels contain lateral amino acids that swell below pKb values and contract above pKb values. Kb, pKb equals negative log Kb. pKb values is what measures the strength of a base dissociation. The base dissociation constant equals pKb equals negative log 10 Kb, expressed as equilibrium constants. Anionic hydrogels have carboxylic or sulfionic lateral groups. Amphiphilic hydrogels can be anionic and cationic lateral groups. Dual thermo and pH responsive gels change most often in a living body. In tissue engineering, a matrix that's capable of sustaining cell life, there's undifferentiated and differentiated 3D structures, uses and applications. Cell culture substrates, regenerative medicine, mimic living systems with degradation, non-harmful products of the natural polymers, such as proteins, nucleic acids, and polysaccharides. There are also self-healing hydrogels. Bioinks used in 3D bioprinting. Advanced applications in medicine with fibrin, silk fibroin, collagen, keratin, and gelatin. The European Patent Office, eSpaceNet, and Scopus are references to such things. Gray Dynamics as well. SMO stands for Support Military Operations, Underwater Sonar Radar, and Seismic. SALT Treaty, there was a strategic arms limitation. SALT II happened in the 70s. The INF Treaty accelerated talks for START 1, which was signed in July 1991 and entered into force December 1994. This treaty prevented two countries from deploying more than 6,000 warheads on top of 1,600 ICBMs and bombers. ARIS radar evolved into Patria ARIS E, Ares SAAS radar, analysis and tradecraft. ARPA is Advanced Research and Analysis Projects Agency from the 70s as well. Particle beam weapons, high energy lasers, EMPs, HPMW, DEW weapons or DEW, and FIP is the National Foreign Intelligence Program. TIARA is a Tactical Intelligence and Related Activities branch. CMO is a Central Mass-In Office. 1992 formation under the DIA and Joint Commissions of the DoD and IC. IC still remains one of the most secretive organizations, comprising national and theater budgets. New DCID is the carbon copy for the new Central Imagery Office. CIO stands for Central Imagery Office. J2, Director for Intelligence. TPED, TPED is the Tasking, Processing, Exploitation, and Dissemination branch. Signatures Intel. Aerospace Gel is an autonomous DNA biolinked composite structure with countermeasure sensor systems that is used in electronic warfare systems. STARCOM is a space training and readiness command for Space Force and armed with SpaceX. NGA is an all-source agency. Quantum paradoxes are unraveled by new X-ray technologies. OPIR is an optical infrared synthetic aperture radar system, SAR, recalibrated from ONIR, overhead non-imaging infrared. Geointelligence agreements are GEOINT, international agreements. AGI is Advanced Geospatial Intelligences. EO stands for electro-optical, into cryptanalysis now. There is ordinary differential cryptanalysis. This tracks differences that propagate through the cipher with greater than expected probability. A SAT solver, SAT, solves the Boolean satisfiability problem, true unsatisfiable problems, energy patterns up to Columbia, Missouri. Cube and conquer paradigms. So cubed differential cryptanalysis is used to solve Boolean Pythagorean triples problem. And this ties in with the Fourier optics triple splits, or what some people are currently referring to as 20 times 3, not 20 and back, but 60 and back. Cube and conquer paradigm used to solve Boolean Pythagorean triples problem, ties in with the Fourier optics triple splits. A disjunction of formulas is equivalent to the original formula. Higher order cryptanalysis works for small and low algebraic degrees of S boxes and or XOR operations. Cube attacks in differential cryptanalysis is a symmetric key algorithm called AIDA. Algebraic 4 differential attack is a precursor. Cube attacks blocks ciphers, stream ciphers, and cryptographic hash functions. And this is how information affects resultant differences in the information input, which also affects the resultant differences at the output, from the least significant bits to the qubits. This is what's known as affine mapping, AFFINE. Transformations, warping, affine spaces, translations, reflections, scaling, or tangents curve. Linear cryptological differential equations of additives. Finding the affine approximations to the action of a cipher. Source key codes. Is also known as internal cryptanalysis. There is acoustic cryptanalysis. This is a side channel attack offset with acoustic calligraphy. Advanced encryption standards is an attack mechanic. Coprime is the longest time for the numbers code to pattern or repeat at an interval. A vector, R, is a position of one body to another. NSO stands for National Signet Organization. MU phase 4 is a functional projection of self-reciprocal cipher mathematical involution. Muon particles are the coefficient of friction. Magnetic dipole moment is the linear density in strings of a current carrying permeability in electromagnetism. Dynamic viscosity in oil. Global security protocols. ONIR is an overhead of non-imaging infrared. Aerial common sensors for multi-intelligent aircrafts. MDA stands for Missile Defense Agency. Owner architecture. ONIR, with its own justification book. The National Geospatial Agency, NGA, supports national security. Next Gen OPIR satellite, OPIR, is also in the polar regions. NGP is a strategic missile warning with highly elliptical orbits. Hypersonic maneuverable, that's infrared, polar, transpolar routes. It has polar and transpolar routes, and it's infrared. It is hypersonic maneuverable in its elliptical orbits with a strategic missile warning system. Northrop Grumman has geo assets. OSINT is open source intelligence. NGA, RTD, and E organizations are have an innovative and an innovision directorate. Radiant illuminations targets with EM energy and analyzes the reflected energy. This is what's known as Alcor and Haystack. Radiant illuminations targets. It sends out radiant illuminations that targets the target with EM energy, and then it analyzes the reflected energy back. Geophysical acoustic magnetic signatures. Magnetometry measures variations in strength and direction of magnetic fluids. EO, electro-optics. Spectral sensing, Formosat, was composed of Japan, Taiwan, and France in its formation. It's also known as Spot 5. It provides hyperspectral imagery with satellites deployed in geosynchronous orbits. Skywave is over the horizon radar systems. The JORN network, JORN, is in Australia. Varanus M was VHF radar equipped, and DM was UHF radar equipped in Russia. Current radars in Germany are TIRA, Sarlupe, Terra, San X, Tandem X, Rysat, Yaogan, Weixing, SAR, Israel, TSAR, Italian Sosmo, SkyMed, Spaceborne. Some signets can have RF massants. Borovie has seismic station monitors, and Kazakhstan has teleseismic sensing. Radar EO massant identifies the direction of fire and location. Exotic weapons systems are game changers. ConOps stands for Concepts of Operations. Massant is an ancillary source that went into foreign infrastructures with leadership intentions, cyber intel exchanges, detection of cyber threats, international trade relationships, and help for POWs. So then we get into our final thing, which is called the Fraunhofer diffraction. This is a single split or multiple experiment detecting and understanding electric field patterns. This syncs and synthesizes proportions and the sine waves. What comes out of this is the magnitude squared of the intensity, and it determines the pattern of the split. It defines the aperture function with a missing normalizing constant. Even with the missing normalizing constant. The Fourier transforms optics. The Fourier optics. This is used as an F function and is commonly deciphered in a triple phase split. The Fourier aperture function describes the split into a G of X. Example, diffraction philosophy reads out broadcasts. The slit blocks out light transmission. Spherical waves converge into single phase. The lens modifies the phase. The differential propagates out of the splits, the readout patterns, and how electric fields evolve into space, and eliminates split patterns with a plane wave. The sources emit spherical waves proportional to the radial distance. The slits emanate spherical waves, paraxial small angle approximations called epsilon. Binomial expansion expression. Fourier optics is a transformation of the aperture function. K vector, K times Z, maps out the EM fields with the trigonometry using the theta patterns. Soldier side. Special missions units are called SMUs, and the Carcosa program was run by the Pentagon. Many personnel go by false names. As far as the public military personnel versus the Spec Ops secret soldier sector of assets, there's many similarities and subsets, and both have worked in tandem many times in many timelines and many capacities and functions, overlapping skill sets and abilities at interlacing points. There's many congruencies of basic and advanced training field as far as basic and advanced training fields go. But as far as the scope, the super soldiers are more globally oriented and affixed to work in the prospects of global security measures, metrics within the bounds of space and time. Their goal and task driven to eliminate threats that would countermeasure those initiatives. Layered and classified USAPs, special access components, and under the domicile of foreign intelligence wings and branches that work in joint committees. They harbor trade secrets, weaponized space warfare, and special analysis research derivatives extending into 2037, Echelon 8. Over and out. Fraunhofer diffraction.